A pleasant day, everyone, especially to our professor in Management of Educational Institutions, Dr. Jonas E. Olandria. I am James A. Rafanan, and my topic is about perspective planning. But before that, let us first be guided by the following objectives. First, define perspective planning. And second, enumerate the objectives and advantages of perspective planning. To start the discussion proper, I will read first to you an important remark by Confucius, which will contain an important role in our lives and throughout this discussion. A man who does not think and plan long ahead will find trouble right at his door, by Confucius. Planning is of vital importance in our life. It is required in the process of teaching and learning in organizations, in administrations, and in business industries. Whether at home or in society, we need planning. There may be educational planning, economical planning, industrial planning, or community planning, and also family planning. Planning contains a vital role in our lives as it creates goals for the future and may avoid or prevent problems that may arise along the process. In this regard, let us first define planning. What is planning? The act or process of making or carrying out plans, the establishment of goals, policies, and procedures. Planning is simply the process of creating plans. These plans involves the establishment of goals, policies, and procedures that are vital. When we plan on something, we clearly are looking into the future events or things that we foresee in the future. And in order to achieve those, we create plans that will guide us along the process. Planning is also steering our minds as it will happen in the future. Therefore, we can say that planning is interdependent of time or period of time onto which these plans will be achieved. Since I am talking about period of time, let us categorize planning based on time. Although there are instances that the plans are not achieved in the desired period of time, but planning should still continue and go on. Because the goal of the planning is the achievement or the achievement of goals. We have the first category of planning, short-term plan. It covers 1 to 3 years. Medium-term plan, 5 to 7 years. And long-term plan, which will take 10 to 15 years of planning. And planning done for longer period of 20 to 30 years is what we call as perspective planning, which is also called as strategic planning. Let us first identify the following keywords to clearly understand the topic. We have perspective and strategic. First, the perspective to further understand perspective planning. What do you mean by perspective? A viewpoint or outlook about the scenario. Perspective means something that we foresee or expect to happen in the future. And therefore, kung maghisgot ta og strategic means a special and systematic technique being used. So therefore, we now have the definitions and we can say that perspective planning is it entails a manuscript that is supported by illustration which contains programs, development policies, as well as strategies formulated by the authority. Always remember that perspective planning will take 20 to 30 years of period. Therefore, in formulating this plan, the authority or those involved in planning process should have a complete list of plan of work to carry out and of the plan, and those involved in the implementation will be guided on what they are going to do in order to achieve the desired outcome of the plan. For example, in building a house, the engineers should have blueprint for the construction workers to be guided on the style of the fully furnished house. They also have necessary papers like the title of the site, topography and land area, and also the materials that should be used along the construction of the house. And that is important in the perspective planning. In order to understand perspective planning, let us describe perspective planning through its characteristics. The first characteristic is holistic. Perspective planning is holistic because it does not only focus on one specific educational system. Instead, the entire educational system of a country, from primary or elementary level through secondary level up to the tertiary level. It also includes all forms of educational system, from formal to informal. So therefore, we can say that perspective planning includes the general advantage of everyone, particularly in the educational system. The second one we have related to future trends. Since perspective planning takes 20 to 30 years, thus it can be considered as futuristic. Therefore, their plans should look into the future trends because if not, their plans will be outdated or may not be useful in the upcoming years. The third one, we have dynamic continuous process. Perspective planning is a continuous process because its goals and objectives requires more years to accomplish, and it should have a never-ending process for it to continue. And then the last characteristic we have based on teamwork. The goals of the perspective planning will not be realized by a single person or a group of person. It should matter all the levels of teamwork of all the persons involved in its implementation so that its goals will be achieved. So since we are talking about goals, we have here the objectives of perspective planning. Objectives of perspective planning. The primary objective of perspective planning is to forecast the vision of the future. Let us always remember that perspective planning is futuristic and its plans and goals are for the future. Therefore, its primary goal and objective is to inform the public onto what are the goals for the future so that the public will, or one way or another, they can involve themselves and what they can contribute to the realization of the plan. The second objective is to improve the management of educational institutions. Perspective planning focuses on the improvement of educational system. Why educational system? Because the young citizens will be trained and taught on the knowledge and skills needed or that will be the best use for the fulfillment of the perspective plan in the future. And why we are having this perspective planning? That is because of its advantages. The first advantages, perspective planning enables the programs of development to be continued without any obstacle. It is without any obstacle because remember, perspective planning is for the future. Therefore, the people involved in the planning has a lot of what we call this contingency plans and options in case problems may arise. So if ever, these plans will be initiated. The second one, it derives and formulates policies for future citizens. In this regard, future citizens will be trained and taught on what would be happening in the future because of the perspective plan. The third one, it makes optimal utilization of resources. Since it takes a lot of time or years, the funds and resources will be utilized on all possible need of the plan. The fourth one, we have it assists in periodic appraisal. Periodic appraisal in a way that perspective plan takes 20 to 30 years. So each year or a particular period, either 3 or 5 years, there will be an evaluation if the plans and goals expected for this period are achieved. Therefore, one can track the development of the plan. And the last one, the broader aims are formulated to bring desirable social and economic changes. As a result of this perspective plan, people should have or should are expected to have a social class improvement or the improvement of living where people are happy, contented, and have an improved social status. And I think that would be all. Thank you for watching and listening. Please subscribe.